Hey guys, welcome. Today we're going to answer the burning question of what happens when you deploy your airbag with skis on the back. Stay tuned and we'll find out.
My name is Dan McGuire, and I love remote, wild places and the activities that get us to and through them. The wilderness is where my spiritual journey first took hold, and it's still where I best connect with God. Join me as I explore some epic places and meet phenomenal new people seeking adventure and His Word along the way.
So you may have seen videos online already. Maybe you've even done it at home with your own equipment. But it is deploying your avalanche airbag in a controlled environment before you have to do it for real. A lot of vendors will actually do this at different events and venues, and you can find plenty of videos online of that actually happening, specifically with the backcountry access, which is the bag that I have and the bag that I'm going to deploy today. But the question that I had was, what happens when you deploy the airbag with the skis slung across the back? Now, there are a couple different ways to carry your skis or use the bag in hike mode. Now, this would be for multiple reasons. One, maybe you're doing an approach through an area that doesn't either have a lot of snow, or maybe you are taking your sled or snowmobile or snow machine out into the backcountry with your skis slung across the back. There's also this scenario where maybe you are hiking a very steep slope with ice crampons, or maybe even just boot kicking into a slope where you're not really able to have your skis in walk mode with the skins on. So this would be an example where you would have the skis across or in A-frame mode across the pack and hiking up. The problem may arise where you have your skis slung across the back of the avalanche pack, but you're in an avalanche terrain. Maybe somebody above you triggers an avalanche, or maybe you trigger it yourself. Either way, you have to deploy your airbag. So what happens? How does the airbag deploy? Do the skis on the pack inhibit the full inflation of the bag or affect it in any way, shape, or form? There are a couple different ways to carry your skis. The first and the recommended method is slung across your back laterally. Now, this is recommended by Backcountry Access based on how their bags deploy, because in A-frame mode, the skis slung across the top could inhibit the bag either fully inflating or deploying at all. And you can see there's a tag on the side underneath of the ski straps where you would actually affix the ski in the A-frame mode that specifically warns you not to carry the skis that way. Now, the way that I read this tag is that doesn't mean ever, it just means not in avalanche terrain. I.e., if you were doing a long approach, Cody Townsend, in hiking boots, or maybe your ski boots in walk mode, but you are not in avalanche terrain, it's actually much more comfortable to hike with your skis in A-frame mode. One, for the weight distribution. You don't have that weird moment that is swinging across your back like you would in carried in the lateral mode. And two, based on the way that the skis splay out the sides, it allows more natural walking for your feet so that your boots don't continually hit the skis as they're slung across the back there. However, once you get into avalanche terrain, this is certainly not the way that I carry my skis, and it's certainly not the way that's recommended to carry your skis. So anytime I am in avalanche terrain or even hiking below terrain that could avalanche and the slide could encompass the area that I'm in, I will change the way that I carry my skis from the A-frame mode to that lateral mode. And I would say a good 75 to 80% of the time, if I'm hiking, it's for a very short amount of time anyways, at least where I hike, and it's just quicker to throw them on the lateral mode, use a couple ski straps, hike for the brief amount of time that I need to, and then put the skis back on. But that's not to say that I don't use the A-frame mode. I actually have done that a couple times in the past, but again, with all of the provisions that I just talked about. So, before I get accused of clickbait, no, I'm not going to deploy my airbag with the skis in A-frame mode. Number one, I paid too much for the bag to ruin the float airbag, to have it tear or rip or destroy the bag. So today I'm actually going to deploy it with the skis carried in the lateral mode, the way that is recommended by Backcountry Access. Now, there's a couple things and a couple disclaimers. One, I tried to load my pack up with as much gear as possible, representative of a typical day tour. This is the Float Airbag 32, which provides just enough room for me to carry everything that really I need for 90% of the conditions that I ski in for a day trip. But it's not the bigger packs that would be for more overnight trips. It's also not the smaller bags that are maybe for more your side country stuff where you wouldn't have as much gear in there. Two, because it's obviously not winter time yet. It's fall. We're all hoping and praying for snow, but there's no snow on the ground right now. I obviously didn't bring all of my gear. So the stuff that's in the pack is roughly representative. And you'll also see, I also forgot my ski helmet. But I do carry a helmet with me. I just don't wear it when I'm hiking. So I actually use the helmet attachment point in the back. Luckily, my wife and I just bought some pillows. So I'm using a pillow in the place of the helmet so that you can see exactly where that would be to take up space, and it has the appropriate tension applied to the side of the pack, representative of how I would have my bag set up in a walk mode scenario if I need to deploy my airbag. A couple other things and disclaimers. One, the conditions today obviously are not representative of what you might find when you're backcountry skiing. At least I hope not. Temperature's about 50 degrees out right now. Obviously the sun's shining, and there's no snow on the ground yet. Hoping and praying. Additionally, my compressed air canister is sitting right around 2600, 2700 PSI. That is around the bottom limit of where they recommend the airbag canister be inflated to. And you can see on the dial inside, it's actually just outside of the green for where you would want to be safely using the bag. My skis are slung laterally. I've got a surrogate helmet. Probably not going to protect me from much, but it does provide the appropriate tension on the bag. I'm not going to do the leg strap because I don't believe that the bag is actually going to come up and over my head. And if I do need to get out of this thing quickly based on some sort of malfunction, I'd rather just have these two straps to do. But I've got everything else completed. And there you have it. Bag is inflated. Looks like minimal impact from the skis being on the back, but inflated just like you would want it to. There was nothing in the way of the bag inflating all the way. The equipment is still on the back of my pack. And if this was an avalanche situation, the only thing that I would have to worry about now is that I've got these skis still attached to the bag as well. But all in all, I think it was a successful test for today. I'm happy with how the bag inflated. I'm happy that the gear worked out as advertised. And now I'm going to deflate the bag and head home to pack it back up. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the content, then feel free to give it a thumbs up or consider subscribing. If you're curious on how I repacked my avalanche airbag, Backcountry Access provides a great how-to video on doing just that. Additionally, I found a super helpful how-to video from Avalanche Safety Solutions on servicing the Float 2.0 cylinder, or at least prepping the seals and the gaskets in the cylinder before you take it in to get serviced. I will leave links to both of those in the description below. Also, if you have any idea on topics to discuss, places to visit, maybe some gear tests, or maybe even coming by your neck of the woods, then leave those in the comments below, and I'll try to get back to you and maybe even visit you where you're at. Lastly, if you're curious about that verse hashtag, it comes from John chapter 8, verse 51. Jesus says, "I tell you the truth, anyone who obeys my teaching will never die." You see, in the same way that following instructions on our safety gear can help keep us alive, we believe that following Jesus leads to eternal life. So be safe out there, be good to each other, and be good stewards of God's resources in his amazing creation.